Damn, you got your drink? I pressed it. Making sure you're good, because I know you were like, oh shit, what the hell did I forget? Boys, welcome back to the Lonely Road. We're here to join you on your journey to heal and become a better human. And honestly, I messaged KJ. I was like, we're recording today, right? Because this is when we normally record on Tuesdays. And she's like, yeah, what are we talking about? And I'm like, this is one that kind of has to happen. With everything that we dealt with yesterday and the topic that we're about to go into, I want to say one thing. And it's going to come off as kind of cold, but anybody in this world that has to deal with this shit or deal with anything, and I deal with a lot of it myself, mental health is a fucking illness. But that mental illness affects millions of people. But those millions of people that deal with mental illness will then affect another million people, 2 million people, 3 million people, because every single person has millions of people around them that your mental illness will affect every single day, not at the same level as you, but they're also dealing with their own shit and everything else. Just because somebody gives you sympathy, just because somebody understands that you're going through something, does not fucking mean that we accept your problem. It doesn't matter what the hell is going on in your head. It does not change the way I have to live, the way I have to do things. I may help you, but that doesn't mean that it should affect anything past me helping you. Your mental illness should not affect anything on anybody else's day, anybody else's life. And it should not have that level of impact when you turn the corner. So today actually is the day that my son Joshua was supposed to be born. So it's kind of a rough day. It's kind of a weird day to kind of just feel all of this out and kind of put all this stuff into like a thought process, especially when I didn't take my meds this morning. But after dealing with all the trauma, 6 months ago now, I looked at Bree and I'm like, hey, I want to do this. I want to help people. I want to change things. I feel like I've dealt with so much that I kind of just want to show other people, hey, it's okay. You can get out of this. But it's also like everybody has to know the other side of this. You cannot hide behind those letters, that mental illness, that mental anguish, that mental pain that you're dealing with, whether that's grief or mental illness. It cannot be the entirety of fucking you.
Yeah, people are multifaceted, and a lot of times they get pigeonholed into their feelings. And it's interesting when you're stuck there, but it's not you. It's not the total of who you are, for sure.
But it's like when you boil yourself down so badly to that point, it is so hard to just accept that person. And I know that's kind of a obtuse way to fucking say it, but at some point, those people that are so like hell bent on saying you're this or this person's this, or you're trying to create that as a part of their identity, you're the bad person. Because ADHD, autism, depression, uh, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, these things they're a part of your personality. They're not every single part of your personality.
Okay.
They're how you see the world, not every single interaction you have in the world. If you're suicidal right now, most people are not going to know, but yet you're going to wonder why nobody's reaching out. It's because you actually have to have the personality and the conversation, the availability to speak about whatever you feel you need to. But once again, understanding and sympathy does not mean acceptance. Just because you're dealing with something doesn't mean that everybody else around you has to feel the same thing and accept it.
And they're not going to. And sometimes that's a hard truth that people have to come to grips with, is that not everybody feels what you feel. And so you're pretty much alone when you're feeling the way you're feeling. But
Yeah.
it does not have to affect your entire life. And I think that's when the sadness that we were talking last week, sadness is not depression, it's different. I think that's where the sadness can turn into depression, when people get pigeonholed into that and make that too much part of their personalities. Or, too much a part of their put too much of their worth in that.
Especially with how big of a buzzword say something like depression is, or things like bipolar disorder are becoming, or other personality disorders and things like that. They're getting such a gaslit fire underneath of them that's causing them to become such a big fucking thing in every fucking part of media now. Like back in the 80s and 90s, was there movies like Split where you have multiple personality disorder on display in the most crazy level you possibly could have it, where every single person's a different voice? Like I know we both have dealt with like people with personality disorders. We dealt with that shit in front of us. Like that shit by itself probably is part of your personality. It's pretty logical for that to be part of your personality. But the thing is like that doesn't dictate if you're dealing with something negative and causing other people harm. Just because I have sympathy for you and your struggle does not mean I will ever accept the pain that you want to cause others. And it's
Oh,
just,
that's assuming that person wants to cause others pain. It doesn't
yeah,
always have to be like that.
yeah, I know, but it seems like a lot of people just genuinely don't realize that. They say, "Oh, well, you understand what I'm dealing with." Yeah,
Well,
just
hurt.
because I understand doesn't mean that,
You're not going to hurt people. Hurt people,
yeah,
and that's it's true. You know, when I was hurt, that's how I acted, and I didn't know I was acting that way. Was it my intention to hurt people? Was it my intention? No, it wasn't. But when you're in the middle of it, you don't see that. To it's
and
hard when you're in the middle of that depth of feeling not to make it your personality for
and
that
it's
time.
really hard. It's really hard, and that's part of what the diagnosis of borderline personality disorder is on like a base level. It is when you feel you are being abandoned, you protect yourself. So the second that you feel off, the second you feel like something's not fucking right, you put the fucking walls up and you start kicking in front of you, regardless of if that person cares about you or not. You're gonna fucking kick through them. And it's like, you don't have to be a punching bag. At some point, it's okay to fucking let go. And and I know I'm speaking in fucking metaphors and similes and everything else, and I can't fucking speak openly, but soon I will be fucking able to, and it will feel fantastic. But yeah, I want everybody to hear this. Just because you're this or that or a problem or you have some mental illness and somebody accepts that you have it, and they accept and they give you sympathy and they feel bad for you and they want to help you, does not mean they're going to accept every single bit of abuse that you give them. It's not okay.
No,
Just because you're hurting, just because you can't see what the fuck's in front of you, doesn't mean that person has to accept it.
no, and that's a misconception that a lot of people that suffer with a mental illness have, is that a lot of people use that mental illness as a crutch or an excuse as to why they act the way they act. Um, and you can't um, you can't take that mental illness and say, oh, that's just the way I am, that's my anxiety, or that's my, because I have huge high anxiety, and
Mhm.
when I am in high anxiety, my tone of voice goes up, my inflections are different, and it sounds like I may be having an attitude with somebody when really my anxiety is just high.
Yeah,
um,
and you get more jumpy. You can calm down. You're okay for a second. Give yourself a second. I can
yeah,
see it.
yeah.
You can see it. And it's just like I had this beautiful conversation with my oldest daughter Maddie literally yesterday, because we were talking about her ADHD and her autism. I deal with the same things. Like we're relatively similar in that aspect. And I looked at her and said, I need you to understand that, your IEP, your 504, those things are not the only answer of how you can get these things solved and fixed and everything else. It shouldn't be me having to go to the school and fighting on your behalf every single time you need 2 extra minutes to do something. You being able to stand up and tell your teacher, hey, this is why I need my homework at this point. This is why I have this extra class where I'm available to be in classrooms, do the homework for the week and hand it in. It's because You have to actually be able to be resourceful for yourself and say, hey, this is my problem. I'm not saying it's a problem, but this is what I deal with. This is how I can fix it. Let me fix it. This is what I need you to do. And I told Bree the same thing. I was like, I deal with emotions and feelings in a very, very odd way. And like, if it's something that is not being said, but I'm supposed to read it, don't fucking expect me to read it. Don't act like all these people that just want to be nonverbal. Yeah, there's just quite a few things I can pick up non-verbally.
Mhm.
But if we're having a problem right now, tell me what is written on your fucking forehead because I can't fucking read it. I don't know if you're fucking angry and you want to kill me, you're anxious and you want to shit yourself, or if you're so scared about something that you don't know exactly what the fuck you're doing in 20 minutes.
Mhm.
I don't know the difference. Tell me what you need me to do so that way I can help you and let's get through this.
Yeah, take a step back. You can't expect the other person to know. Well, you have to communicate. Just chill for 1 minute. Take the 3 minutes that it might take to explain, hey, I'm feeling a little edgy right now. I'm not really sure why, or I know why.
Yeah.
Can we talk about
And it's just it's so surreal to me where it's like everybody has to accept everything now, and we were just having a very similar conversation to this beforehand, but like this whole acceptance thing isn't how we should handle it. And I know that's a weird way to fuck a 90s kid saying, hey, you shouldn't just blindly accept everything, but I don't think acceptance is what everybody was fighting for. I think they used acceptance because it was a great buzzword and looked great on a t-shirt. But acceptance isn't what we wanted. Acceptance is what, you know, there's no outcomes, there's no repercussions for acceptance. When we really needed understanding, because no matter what mental illness you deal with, if you go shoot up a liquor store, you're still going to jail. At some point, that accountability, you can't just keep taking it off people because you accept them.
Yeah, it's the same with using your mental illness as an excuse. So you have to be accountable for your own bullshit.
Yeah.
You can't use your in my case, my anxiety as a reason to get lippy. I have to
Or
be
pull yourself
able.
out of all human interaction because that's what happens with some people with anxiety too.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I will barricade myself and not if when I'm feeling like I need to isolate, I isolate.
Yeah.
I have to for my sanity. If I don't, I it's kind of like overstimulation.
Yeah.
Um, and
No, I deal with it too.
overstimulation of my emotions, and I sometimes I just have to put myself in timeout. And that's how I've learned how to deal with my emotions, and I am learning how to master my own anxiety and use it for my benefit rather than to my detriment. I don't want to argue about whether I'm angry or not. I'm not angry. I'm just anxious,
Yeah.
but I may have influxed my voice a different way when I was saying something because I am that anxious. But I can't use that as an excuse. It's not their problem. It's
And
not the
like
people around me's problem. It's my problem to
I've
fix.
had the weirdest occurrence since my neck and everything else. My anxiety and my fears and stuff like that, I now feel it in my nervous system. And that might sound fucking
No, it's
psychotic,
not. I feel my anxiety in my nervous system every single day. That's how I feel my anxiety.
but those nerve migraines, I have them once a fucking day. If I take my anxiety medication, it comes down. It doesn't happen. But it's like, at what point do I take my anxiety medication every day, all day? It's just like, no, that's not how it needs to be. At some point, I kind of just gotta understand and accept. But fuck, man, like the past couple days have been such high levels of anxiety that it's just like everything is kind of just fucked.
It is, but take a deep breath. Just take a second to take a deep breath, because it's going the way it's going for a purpose. There's an explicit purpose as to why this is happening the way it's happening.
And I
It's okay.
and I have, and it honestly. all of the shit that I dealt with and looked at as a child, looking back at it now, it gave me the ability to actually handle this shit appropriately.
Hmm.
Like I did shut down. I didn't speak. Everybody was confused why I just sat in my room and play video games. It's just like it's kind of what I needed to be able to do. And like looking at what we wanted to talk about today, with it being like survivor's guilt and like
We're not talking about a lot of that, are we?
no, actually, like I'll say it this way. I had with dealing with the trauma that I've dealt with in the past from a certain person specifically. And I'm so happy I can speak more openly than I'm used to being able to, but I'm trying to be protective as well. I am so fucking fearful that I'm going to be dealing with this shit not only with myself but everybody around me in a very very short period of time. So to me, not only is it a very one-sided thing, but it's a very multicultural, intertwined thing that I'm dealing with even in this moment. Like Joshua, who's right behind me, I would have given my life for him to make sure that he was okay every single fucking day of my life. Brett, I would have done the same thing, and I knew that he wouldn't have made it when he was born either. But I would have given my life for either of them. I questioned it every single day of my life until a couple years ago. I wondered why me, and it's like I don't want them to have to deal with the same feelings that I did. I know that those questions would come. And it's just like it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking when you know suicide is such a person's question and part of their personality and part of their struggle in life, and you know that it's coming to light, and it hurts. It hurts that today is this day. It hurts that all of this stuff is happening all at the same time, and it's hard to just look at without feeling guilt because it all of it is like why am I the one that has to lead out of this? Why? It sucks.
Sometimes it's not for you to lead. Sometimes it's just for you to be. Sometimes you don't have to do anything. Sometimes you just need to let it be. That was one of my mom's big sayings. You need to
And I
let it be.
have,
And you have to know when to let it be.
and it's been one of the hardest fucking things that I could ever do. In all of this, it's so hard to just be quiet, sit down, shut up, continue on what I need to do, and just push that entire thought forward. Like when we started covering this topic and started covering this kind of thought process, I wrote down this line. The idea, like, so when I was a kid, obviously, with grandma and grandpa, religion was a part of everything. So like there was random conversations about religion and stuff like that. I was baptized, Katie was baptized, but after grandma passed, it kind of went downhill, at least from my memory. I could be wrong. I could be remembering it slightly off. I don't know. But like I remember hearing about sin and all of those problems and stuff like that. And it's just like there's no idea of trauma in like religion. It's just like, oh, well, that's a sin. That's gonna hurt you. And like, okay, but yeah, I still have to cut. I still have to heal it. It's weird because religion just pushes past guilt and pushes it onto you, and you have to accept that guilt regardless of if it's death, pain, or whatever the hell is happening. It's it's weird trying to look back at it in such a much healthier mindset, and that's due to so much fucking work and Bree and everything that I've done so far. But like, it is such a weird place to be in such a better place than what I was before.
Yeah, I'm sure it feels much better. Um, it's tough. It's a tough situation. It's all very tough to deal with. All of it,
Yeah,
you know, from the survivor's guilt to I mean, religion. That's why most people are turned away from religion is the guilt. I mean, here we are. I have to talk about the corruption. I have to talk about the corruption and everything. But they use guilt in religion. I'm not talking spirituality. I'm a very
Yeah.
spiritual person as far as religion is concerned. I shied away from religion when the guilt was used as a tool to get
Yeah.
me to do what the church wanted me to do. And I don't like to be told what to do. So guilting somebody into doing something is definitely not it.
No, it's not. And it's like, it is so hard to read and think about the notes that I had before and try and put these pieces together because goddamn, my ADHD mind is all over the fucking place.
Today it is. It absolutely is how you're having challenges. That's okay though. We'll get through it.
No, and I want to tell everybody this. I fucking apologize for when my mind goes on rants and all this shit because like there is so much shit going on that I can't openly speak about yet. And there will be a time and a place where I am perfectly able to talk about everything. We have so many different things on our list of like, we need to talk about this and we need to talk about this and we need to talk about this. But there are so much actively traumatizing things that are going on right now that are so in the moment that I have to talk about. And it's like having this mic in front of me is my therapy. Like I go to therapy every single week. It's the same fucking thing. Me being able to openly speak and help people is the only thing that fucking helps me. But being able to openly speak about whatever I'm feeling at the precise moment, changes on the day and how it infiltrates our topic for the week or whatever is kind of different sometimes. But it's just looking back at notes from 8 months ago, 6 months ago is hell because my mind is such in a different place right now.
Yeah, it's actually evolved that quickly for me as well. Like we started this, and it's just kind of opened up the little pockets of healing within me. And every time we get into a subject, it heals more. So I completely understand, and even with the flow of the podcast today, going in a few different directions, that's okay too, because that shows how things sometimes have to flow.
Yeah. And it's so hard because like Pre, she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm trying to focus." But literally nothing I was laying in bed, which is something I never do during the day. I cannot fucking go to my room at all until like 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, because if I go up there and lay down, my entire day is fucked. Like the entire fucking thing is absolutely fucked for the rest of the day. I will never accomplish anything that second half of the day if I fall asleep or what, even if I sit in that
After a
bed.
nap sucks, bro. Like, yeah, I wake up so fucked up.
I was like, fuck it. I'm going to sit in bed and give myself 20 minutes. It turned into like 45, but
Oof.
I was trying to come into like just some focus about what I wanted to say because there's so many things that are going on in my mind. I'm like, can't say that, can't say those words, can't say those words. This is what I can say, and that's the mental health thing that I got off at the first part. And she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I will be okay," and I know I'll be okay because soon I'll have a microphone in front of my face and I'll be able to say every single fucking thing I want to say. Because for some reason, this makes it okay. This brings out some sort of fucking healing in me for some fucking reason. But it's just like even having the restraint and the availability that I have removed from me now, it is still hard to try and find the words to talk about things openly.
Oh,
Because
absolutely. And you went through a lot yesterday. I mean, not just the act of going where you went, but the act of sitting where you were sitting and being able to hear things so clearly.
yeah,
That in itself was probably very, very difficult. And it's something that you need to decompress from.
yeah,
So whatever way you need to decompress from it is the way you need to decompress from it. We need to do a show about whatever is on your mind, whatever second it's on your mind is it's what we need to do, because otherwise it's going to turn in to some, I mean, you're still grieving this relationship. You're not stuck in it. You're not stuck in any cycle, but there is a part of you that's still grieving the relationship and the break of the family. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay for you. That's okay to Bree. It's always been okay to Bree. She understands that you need the space to be able to heal that. But you can't not acknowledge the grief that the and what's going on, what went on this week is kind of, yeah, the divorce happened, but there's this extra piece that needs resolution. It's that extra piece. It's that kind of final extra piece, if you
Yeah.
will.
And the weird way life works into a crescendo and just works. And I don't remember if I said this in our group chat or I said it in the video chat. I know I've said it to Bree multiple times. I'm waiting for anybody just to look at me and tell me everything that you've worked for. We've been lying to you this entire time. And you can see it in my fucking face. You can see that I'm fucking exhausted. You can see my anxiety is so fucking high.
Mhm.
But it's just like it is surreal how okay everything is, and I am sitting here. You can tell all of the trauma that I've dealt with if you know me. It's like everything right now is on my shoulders, and it doesn't feel okay because none of it's controllable. It is all fucking controlled chaos right now, and there is nothing I really can do to kind of rein it in. There's nothing I can do
No, it's not
because
just yours.
yeah,
There's a whole other person or two that are, controlling things on another side of the coin. And again, like I said, maybe it's not for you to control. Maybe it's for you to just be
yeah,
in your home with your family. And when the rest of your family comes to be with you on the weekends, in the future, whatever it may be there now. That's all
yeah.
you can do. You can't control an outcome. As much as you think about and try to calculate outcomes, Zach, you can't control an outcome. There are
I'm pretty good at this.
there are
I,
curve.
I,
I understand, but there are curveballs everywhere, and I think that you calculate, and that's great. You thinking of outcomes and planning what it could be, so you're not surprised at any outcome. But one thing that I think that you fail to do is just be
yeah,
and stop trying to figure out the outcome. It's just gonna
I don't
right
know.
now. The deck is gonna fall where it's gonna fall.
To me, it is really hard when I get into the point of overthinking, whether it's this situation, whether it's, you know, YouTube algorithms, whether it does not fucking matter what it is. Until that puzzle is figured out, my mind doesn't stop. It doesn't matter. Like I could completely give up on figuring it out. And my mind's still like, how the fuck does this room work better? It's an everyday, all day thing, and it's just like there are some things where it'll just catch, and it'll be like, okay, this is a 8-month problem, and it's the only thing that will be on my mind for 8 fucking months, and it just hyper focuses on it and breaks it down to the point where I know every single outcome of every single conversation that I will have in this entire thing. I'll have 5 or 6 jokes that are broken down that I will absolutely throw in at the most inappropriate times and it'll be hilarious or it could be a huge fucking problem. It just it's a weird thing. I remember trying to tie back to the topic and hopefully I can fucking stay on it this time. I remember when I was talking to somebody about the death of Brett and stuff like that and the survivor's guilt and everything that I felt afterwards. And he was trying to help me get a TED Talk. He works with TED Talk. He's like, you write this script, you write the availability, and I will get this signed off on, and it'll happen. And I will use you as the poster boy for my agency that I want to use and everything else and create. I was like, that's fine. You don't want to charge me $10,000 to help me do this? That would be fantastic. Title of my entire story: deciding not to roll out the window at 4 years old. There's always just a level of like dark fucking humor in my mind that I just don't think everybody genuinely gets. But it's so surreal to look back at that situation specifically and try and use that as a way to figure all of this shit out and how I feel now and try and keep myself out of the survivor's guilt.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to keep yourself out of that. I mean, for so many years, I think one of the biggest reasons why I had a problem moving forward from my mom's death is that I was I felt guilty.
You're breaking shit. That's how guilty you
Apparently,
are.
yeah. I felt guilty still being here and her not being here. I mean, everybody. I mean, she's a much better person than I am. Why am I not gone? And you should be here.
That
You
that was
more to the world.
that was the exact thought I had. I wrote it here, and it's been the thing. I was suicidal at 4 years old. Absolutely, blatantly, and very, very straightforward wise. Suicidal at 4 years old. I didn't understand why I was being punished by God, everybody being taken from me. Yet I'm telling myself I want to die. Okay, take me and let them fucking enjoy their life.
Well, at 4 years old, you had already lost a brother, which was being idolized in your home, and you just lost your grandmother. So, at 4 years old, of course you want to die because you want to go spend time with Nana. That was your compass.
Yeah. And it's just even with everything that happened with Joshua, it's really, really hard to kind of just face it and just be like, how is this not punishment? Like, that's why I looked positive. It's like, if I don't look at this positively, if I don't try and help people, if I don't try and bring something out of this to help somebody, even if it's just Bree, even if it's just the kids, I'm punishing everybody around me if I don't.
You you know, you can make something whatever you want it to be. So if you want something to be a punishment, it's going to be a punishment to you. If you want to be a victim, well, for something, we were talking about being victims earlier, you're going to be a victim and you're going to find everything that you can to pull victim status from. If
Yep.
you want to overcome a certain feeling, that's the thing. You hyper focus on that. You can absolutely you
Doing
can
that's
make it.
changed my entire life.
Yeah, you could
And you
make
said it last episode. You look at me for at 14, 15 years old. When you look at me now, I'm a completely different person. And it's not just because I'm 31.
well,
That's
no.
not the difference.
Are there
I'm a com-
days?
I'm a completely different person.
You absolutely are. But are there days like today that you wanted to go in your room and just you had to chill, you had to do something to focus, and you did something that's now out of your norm, but it kind of reverted back to you going in your room to figure things out,
Yeah.
you know? And people can get stuck in and it can be in a positive stuck or a negative stuck, but when you get stuck in a feeling or a punishment like people dying, I don't feel like that's a punishment to you or to me or whoever feels the death. It's easy to feel that it's a punishment because it hurts. It hurts. It's painful. It's taxing. And that's what punishments are. Um, but in the grand scheme of things, they're it's the circle of life. It's seriously just the way that you see the world and handle the world.
Yeah.
And it's lessons on how to do that better. And if you catch on to those lessons earlier in life, that you caught on to lessons earlier than life than I caught on to lessons in my life. You caught on to lessons earlier in life, and although you isolated yourself for a while in your life, you learned how to deal with these things better and better and better every time.
And oddly enough, and this is where it gets weird for me because with, not using it as an excuse, but being autistic or ADHD or whatever the fuck causes it, it is so much easier to internalize and just handle it myself than expecting anybody else to fucking help me with it.
Well, because really, can anybody help resolve the inner workings of you?
No, they're an enigma. I don't even know how they work.
I mean, sometimes we can't even do that for ourselves. How can we expect other people to? And that's again looking outward for some kind of a validation. Um, I mean, if you like you have a conversation with Brie, I have a conversation with Sarah. We 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 meet minds with that person who can understand the inner workings of our brain. Um, but we innately have to figure things out on our own. And that's what this path and journey of grief is us walking alone on the path. Although I have you, you have me, your mom, we have the family. I have my grandkids and my wife. Yes, there's people there, but we all walk our own paths, and that's lonely. That's
Yeah.
solitude that you need. I never understood that, but that's a
Yeah.
solitude that people absolutely need, and they need to learn how to use it correctly and not like end
And I
up in the
think
depression
and I
portion.
think that that mindset, when you start teaching that to kids, and this could be my mind remembering things skewed or something, I don't necessarily know, and I haven't even fully thought out this entire idea yet. But it causes you to have like that first player syndrome where everybody's like an NPC and everybody's just, around, or they're there to help you. And it's like your mom's not there to help you. Your mom's there to live her life. And when you fully figure out exactly the level that everybody else has their own shit going on, you feel so out of touch with everything because everybody lives their own life.
You're right. You're right. Mothers are kind of a little bit different. My mother
Oh,
was, and
there's
my wife
there's
absolutely is.
there's
Um,
that parent for you is what I'm saying. Is it
yeah,
doesn't necessarily have to be mom, doesn't have to be dad. It could be grandma. It doesn't matter. There's always going to be one or two people that have it 25% of their life is towards you. But even still, that person, if they give everything to you, they're still not doing them. So there's going to be part of them that is, bolstered by something that they do as well. But learning that is a weird fucking thing.
yeah. It's interesting that my view is very different on that. Because I know for a fact that mothers whole mindsets are different than that. When mothers have children, that most mothers, not all mothers, most mothers, their children are their world.
Mhm.
And a lot of times in the first specifically 5 years of a child's life, because they're so dependent on another, mothers lose their identity.
Yep,
They
absolutely.
very much can lose their identity to that toddler. And it very well can go into, and that's a lot of grief that mothers have in losing that self identity.
Well,
Um,
that's why you have things like postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis. More mothers are diagnosed with mental illness after they give birth instead of before. There's a lot of stuff that all of that stuff kind of flies under. And it's like after dealing with what I dealt with Ava, my little baby, when I had her by myself for 2 years and she was abandoned and left here and I was by myself right after neck surgery. I had to build up a life where I was able to do everything that kid needed, but also have my own form of what I am. Because not only am I regrowing myself, but I'm also taking care of a human that was just in the NICU. That
that's
it's hard, But
Yeah,
if you don't cut out part of your day or cut out what you need to do as a human to take care of you, you're not you're not playing the game.
you're doing yourself a great disservice because then 20 years down the road when your kid goes off to college or goes cross country or gets a family and has a baby and moves out, you're left there. That's where you are. And if you put your whole entire identity, I'm not saying that, you shouldn't be the best parent you can be, but if you put your whole
Oh,
entire
absolutely.
identity and don't feed something into you during those years, you're going to end up very, very lonely, very, very isolated when that
It
child
breaks marriages, it breaks
goes off.
relationships. It's a kind of survivor's guilt that, may be under a different name, and I completely understand that, but it's still you're surviving once again without that person that you brought so much life and energy in.
Oh, yeah.
It's a difference in life,
Oh, yeah.
a
I'm
difference in who you are.
positive that when I went away to college alone, my mom had a very hard time with the separation, as well as when I went away. That's grief. I
Yeah.
grieved being away from her
Yeah, absolutely.
when I,
I remember when I moved out, I had very, very
crazy.
similar feelings.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I don't know, this whole idea of, like I remember hearing it all the time. God will only give you what you can handle. It's like, I don't think at 4 years old, I was kind of meant to handle all that. And I know, you're not supposed to question it, but it's really hard to look back at your life and be like, "Yeah, I did handle it. I understand I'm still alive, but, like, I don't understand why that's the sentence. Why is it, 'Oh, God will only give you what you can handle.'"
Well, that's,
Like,
that's when you need that comfort of God, and people have um, when they use or utilize, I should say, religion as that higher compass.
or
Um,
that path to redemption of like,
yeah,
"Oh,
like
you were a trauma-sinned human being." Like,
shit happens, and
yeah,
it's not all traumatic. Yeah, bad shit happens, but it happens to us when it happens in life, so that we can learn how to deal with it. So the way I see it is that when you were young and you had to go through the death of your brother and the idolization of that brother and not having him around and feeling like you were supposed to be the one to go or not be wanting to be here, you having to deal with those feelings, you then having to deal with the death of your grandmother who took care of you for the first 4 years of your life. Your mom worked a full-time job, and she also tried to carve out, um,
and put the pieces of her life
and
together
put the
and
pieces
figure
of
out how
her
to be a
life because
human.
she was still very young. Yeah,
Yeah.
and figure out how to be that human. So grandma was your nana was was very you and her were very, very close, and so, you then growing up wanting to go to heaven, and at 4 years old, kind of putting together now that, "Hey, I was suicidal at 4 years old, and that's not normal." But in a 4-year-old brain, it's, "I wanna go see Nana. I'm gonna go."
Yeah, I don't wanna do this anymore.
Yeah,
Like, there's nothing more in this life that I want.
I'm gonna go
Just
where
let
you
me
are.
go.
Yeah,
And
and
it's so surreal to kind of look back at. It's like, fuck.
yeah, but you went through those things for a purpose. Now, I know everything for a reason. Nobody wants to hear these cliches, but what did you just go through?
Yeah.
Okay. All the shit in between in your last relationship of the same subject. How many of those did you go through?
Yeah.
The buildup of the foundation you losing somebody. That gives you it it sucks, but it gives you a layer of, all right, I know how to navigate some of this. So it happens again, and then you have another layer of, okay, I've navigated that. I can, and so you get to that level, and then all the things that happened before led up to this, and you and only you can judge how you've handled it progressively. But is there something to be said for having those things have been as shitty of a foundation as it is, a foundation of knowledge to have be able to get through this now?
I have zero idea how I handled any of this. And I know I won't truly know all of how I handled this for, 10 years. And I completely understand and respect that. But at the same time, it's like, how do you ever actively in a year know how you handled something, especially as traumatic or extremely negative as this is? It's like it is so surreal to try and put the feelings into words of like how fucking awful everything feels
Mhm.
and how I'm trying to insulate every single person, including the mother, every single way I possibly can. And I can't. So it feels always like a failure because I can't fucking take that pain, even though I know in the grand scheme of things, taking it from her would be the greatest thing that could happen because she wouldn't feel it every day.
That's a reconciliation that needs to be done because you just don't. It's tough to be able uh, to have to watch somebody suffer
Yeah.
and not be able to do anything about it. You can lead um, by example, but what I see is somebody who's taken their trauma and put it out there in raw, unedited format for people to consume due to one of the hugest tragedies that have ever happened in his life. Now, if that's not a testament to how you have dealt with this situation in this past 6 months, I don't know what is. Because I don't know of one person, if they wouldn't have had, as shitty as it is, the foundation of having met grief before, having met death before, having looked death square in the eyes multiple times before. If you wouldn't have done that, there would have been, you could be different because you're very focused, but I think that you would have had a hell of a lot harder time processing. There still are days that are horrible. I get it. It is a horrible situation. But I feel like the sum total of things that you've been through have helped you handle this, not only in a positive way for yourself, but the people living in your household and your children. You're showing them how not to stay down and how to still be able to have your feelings, but circumvent that to life.
And I think the big part, especially since this is part that I wasn't able to say before, not to have revenge on my heart, not to have anger on my mind, not to have pettiness on my mind, not to be like, you murdered my fucking kid and it's completely your fault. So I'm going to take everything. Not having those feelings every single day, being every single thing I feel, not being every single step of everything is a positive outlook that I think a lot of people genuinely wouldn't be able to feel as they dealt with this, or if they dealt with something similar, if you put the exact same situation in other people's lives, I don't think they wouldn't be able to not feel that because it's so hard not to.
Some people have. the vengeance and the petty in them, and some people don't. I don't think of those things. I go straight to hurt. So for some people, it is very hard. I'm very close to some people that it's very hard not to get petty and not get vengeful. The anger comes from somewhere else, and it comes from being hurt.
Yeah.
And that's okay to be hurt. But what it's not okay to do is turn around and be vengeful in whatever way, because that's never going to land right on you. And it's never a good look because you have 3 little ones that are watching you.
Yep. And I'll have those 3 little kids being the most happiest, healthiest, most amazing people that they possibly can be. Hopefully there's who knows how many more that will be happy and healthy as well. And just like my beautiful girlfriend, soon to be fiance and soon to be wife said today, we couldn't keep him safe. And it sucks. But I will do everything that I possibly fucking can to make sure every single fucking person around me is. I'm not going to let this happen.
That's all you can do.